More LLC, here to help you do more, serve more, and of course, be more. Tonight's class is on, or this module, I should say, is on how to tell your brand story. It's very important. One of the things that I'm going to do as we go through this process is tell you a little bit about what a brand is, what a brand is not, and exactly what is a brand story and how to effectively tell it. Let me know. I just want to make sure that people can hear and see me. So if you can hear and see me, then right, I can hear and see you, at least one person. Get my orange juice all together. Make sure I'm hydrated and everything. So I am going to assume that everyone can hear and see me. um, So again, we're going to be talking about how to effectively tell your brand story and what that looks like. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit, of course, about Be More LLC. It is an organizational development agency that helps to build nonprofits from the ground up the right way. And tonight, I'm also the lead trainer for this course. And just to give you a little bit about me, I like to tell people things about me that you can't necessarily find in a bio. One of the things that you can't find out about me in a bio is that I love my grandmother. That's why it says Bertha May's grandbaby, who Bertha May has transitioned now. Um, Another thing about my passions in terms of nonprofit development is I went from homeless to hopeful. And I did that through the use of nonprofits that were local in the area that really kind of helped me build build myself from the ground up. Did years of education in nonprofit development as well as nonprofit service, volunteered, worked on domestic and international grants and awards. And again, let me just do another check-in. If you can hear me, please let me know you can hear me. If you can see me, please go ahead and write that in the chat. Just want to make sure I'm visible and audible. We know technology is awesome when it works, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily work out. Oh, I see. Okay. Let me switch this so that, yep, okay. So the next aspect. Okay, good deal. Vera, you can hear and see me. Thank you. Vinette, you can hear and see me. Good deal. Okay, so that's enough so that I know that people can hear and see me. So the next part I'm going to talk about, of course, I love to cover this first before I get into content, is knowing your role. And I put a little band-aid up there because sometimes when people sign up for courses or trainings or they get access to coaches or teachers, I think their expectation is that the teacher themselves are going to make them successful. So one of the things I like to tell people first is that no one has more control over your success than you. And that also when you don't invest time, money, energy, resources, etc., into yourself, you get exactly what you pay for. And you got to ask yourself, are you expecting $1 million results with a minimum wage work ethic? Last week I gave homework. We're going to see how far we got on that homework and if we need more time. And if you didn't complete it, that's totally fine because typically I give about 2 weeks to do some of the things that I ask you guys to do. So those are some of the things that I just want you for you to think about as we go along in our training for today. And I also like to check with people to see, so that you know who this is for. This is for people who want to make a living at making a difference. This is for new and emerging nonprofits who need support and jumpstarting their vision. This is for people who want to start a nonprofit but have no idea where to start. This is for people who are tired of the state of their community and they want to do something about it. And it's also for people who are tired of spending their days at the end of someone else's strings and they actually want to do work that is fulfilling to them. So you could just check and self-identify and see if this is for you, and if it is, continue to listen on because I got tons of content and information to give you to help you along the way. So again, tips to make the most of our time together. Definitely come to class ready to learn with your pen, with your pencil, with your sheet of paper. Put this on your calendar. Set aside time on your calendar to work on this because it is important. Make sure that you do take notes. I always have notepad and pen nearby so that I could take notes. And there's some things that you guys might bring up that I need to take a note on, or you might ask a question and I may not have the answer at that particular time, but I can get the answer or know and help to identify what your needs are. Please also feel free to ask questions as we go throughout this process. If there's anything that is unclear to you, ask questions. There's no dumb questions. Everybody is at a state where they are developing their nonprofit. They're getting their head around it. Some of us are still in the conceptual phase, or some we just know we want to make a difference, but we can't quite put our finger on what it is, and it's okay. You have to ask the questions. It's better if you ask the questions. And of course, do the work, engage with others in the class, introduce yourself to each other, connect on our Facebook group if you haven't already. Let me see if I could go over and grab that link. Say hello to other people in the group, give each other encouragement, that sort of thing, because it's really, to me, about community. It's very much about community in this entire process, that we do not build nonprofits alone. So that is the link to the Facebook group. Now to do a little bit of a recap, our last class was on nonprofit development, back to basics. And I want to know who has joined the virtual community, who's gone onto Facebook already and joined the virtual community. If you have, just say I have, or type in there I have. So that I can know who has stepped into the community. Good deal, good deal. So and I know that some people listen to this audio later. So if you are listening to the pre-recording later because you aren't able to get on right now, and you have not done so already, please do access the Facebook community to connect with others, and also go through that introductory section so that you can also get better acquainted with other people in the class. So now the homework that we had was talking about our vision statement, our mission statement, identifying three objectives, and write one program description. I know that is a lot. So if you did not do all of that, then it is okay. What I do want you to, at the very least, have done is to develop your mission statement. And one of the reasons why I want you to have developed your mission statement, or at least give it a glance, is because your mission statement is the cornerstone for everything that the organization does. Getting clarity on that is like laying the foundation. And when you talk about your brand and your brand identity and telling your brand story, it is all based off of your mission statement, or as I like to call them, the money-making mission statement is very much ideally connected to what your brand is. So, and remember, I'm just going to recap on, remember the mission statement, the 3 C's of a money-making mission statement is that it is clear, concise, and compelling. It is clear in that by reading it, I know who you serve and how you serve them. It is concise in that it doesn't seem like you're trying to be all things to all people. And it is compelling in that it speaks to the transformation. So take that into consideration. If you have not completed your mission statement already, review the 3 C's of a money-making mission statement and make sure that you do that and make up a mission statement that has those 3 C's so that you can build, because each of these courses, each of these modules, one builds on the next one. So the course objectives, the objectives for this course is to know what a brand is and know what it is not. I want you to also know the mechanics of a good brand story, know the 3 questions that your content needs to answer, know what a USP is, why it's significant, and the 3 C's to a money-making mission statement. Again, it's something we could cover. How can I get what I have to you to review? What I would like you to do is I'd actually like you to post it in the Facebook group, or you could post it here. And one of the reasons that I want you to do it that way is because I want all of us to have a gander at it so that we can see some examples of what that looked like and for this to be a real community process. So if you want to get something to me, those are the best 2 ways. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and read is this your mission statement, Vanette? It's gumbo. Okay, it's your gumbo mission statement. Because off top, the first thing that I want to say to you is this is quite lengthy for a mission statement, and what it may end up being is there may be a vision statement in here, there may be a mission statement in here, and there may be some goals and objectives in here. But we probably don't need all of this. So I'm just going to read your mission statement. It says single women are discouraged from abortion. It's gumbo, all of it. Not sure how to break it up. Okay, so what I want you to do, if that's all of it, then I just want you to drop in there your mission statement. Don't give me all of it, just the mission statement. Oh, or unless you're saying you haven't broken it up yet. So what Vanette's mission statement or her gumbo mission statement says, single women are discouraged from abortion and encouraged to keep their babies, then criticized for getting pregnant and needing services. They wonder how they will of afford the care of a baby, and more importantly, how does one take care of a baby from fetus to graduation? The answer is to begin at the beginning. This nonprofit organization will offer guidance to single mothers with parental care, information, support programs during the development of the child over the years through the school graduation and beyond. We will mentor. Okay, so one of the things I would say is I would say to ixnay those first few sentences, and I would have it start somewhere with this organization. That would be the first cut. And I like what you said from fetus to graduation. That could be part of a motto or a slogan to kind of tie in what exactly it is that you want to do. This is the base of your mission, my mission statement. Okay, so go back to that. So one of the things I would do is I would cut off that first part and start with this nonprofit organization. And of course, you're not even really going to put this nonprofit organization. What you would start with actually is, so we will offer guidance to single mothers with parental care, information, support programs, and the development of the child over the years through the high school graduation and beyond. So right now, what it sounds like, there's also some objectives in there. So you want to make that, one thing that I do get from that is that you're helping women and children, or women and babies, it seems. And guidance and support to single mothers. Yeah, I would definitely chop those first 2 or 3 sentences, and I would start with what you do or who do you serve, and that is, you serve women and children or women and babies. And how do you serve them? You offer information, support programs, development of the child. So that sounds more like a list. That sounds like a bulleted list. We do this, we do this, we do this. And those are good for your program objectives. So that's one of the first things that I would do is I would cut off that first part and start with who you serve and how you serve them. And I wouldn't try to avoid doing it in a bulleted list. VEER's mission statement is to provide deserving graduating high school students additional funding to assist them further in their education. That's perfect, Vera. I know who you serve. I know how you serve them. The only thing that I would add to that is maybe make it a little bit more compelling in that you talk about a little bit more on the transformation. So I know who you serve, deserving. I don't know how you're going to identify deserving, but that's probably something for a later date. So your mission is to provide graduating high school students additional funding to assist them in furthering their education. So really what that says to me is to help them to get into college. And I don't know if that's your goal. If getting into college is your goal, then say that. Because that talks about a transformation. Because they start at high school at the beginning of your sentence and they end in college. That is something that is a transformation. But if you say they start in high school and then they get further in education, that's just kind of like a continuing. Right, scholarship. So yeah, so I could get from what you were saying that was something that was based on scholarships. I like that mission statement. There's no confusion whatsoever about that mission statement. So that's pretty good. So now we're going to get into and just work on those, and you're going to work on them some more. So to go on into our lesson for today, we're going to talk about branding, and I'm going to talk about a bit about what branding is and what it is not. So first, what branding is not. Branding is not a color scheme. It is not, oh, I got red and green, and that's my brand. My brand is red and green. That is not a brand. Brand is also not a logo. The golden arches of McDonald's is not really the brand. It is not a symbol. Branding is not a symbol. It is not a jingle. It is not. It is not da 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 da. I'm loving it. It is not that, and it's not the motto. Now, all of those things do work to make the brand sticky, and you want a sticky brand. So sticky brands do have specific jingles so that they stay on your mind. They have specific symbols. Sometimes they have specific mottos, but that is very surface level in terms of what an actual brand is. So just keep that in mind that a brand is not a color scheme, a logo, a symbol, a jingle, or a motto. What a brand is a transference of emotion. It's a character, and it's the real estate that you take up in a person's mind to actually make something a really good and a really solid brand. So what that looks like is when you think of, like, one of the things, when I think of coffee, I think of Starbucks, me personally. And so that says something to me. Now, I didn't think of necessarily their logo or a jingle, but I thought of that particular coffee because they've taken up real estate in my mind. If you think about a brand that is sticky for you, they have a certain character, they have a certain even personality to them. Mac, Apple. Apple has a personality. The personality of Apple, if you were to personify it, is young, hip, engaged, in the now, in the know, cutting edge. That is like the personality of it. That is like the character of it. And all of these other things is after you have established and after you've transferred the emotion, after you've developed the character, and after you're able to do all of those things and get to the meat of development of the brand, then you pile on icing, which is a color scheme, a logo, a symbol, a jingle, a model, because those are the things that help to make the brand sticky, right? But they are not the brand. They just help to make them sticky. So we're going to talk more about what a brand is in this next slide. So this is how you build a personal brand, and it also works for organizational brand. Personal brand has three things. They have character. What is the character of it? What do they think of when they think of you? And that includes personality, authenticity. Who do they believe you are at your core? And then another way in terms of building a brand is consistency. That means you stay in alignment on a regular basis across all platforms, online or offline. If you're an organization and you are saving the dolphins, you are not somewhere eating a tuna sandwich, because that is inconsistent and out of alignment with what your brand is. And it will give the person that your character or who you say you are, who that organization says it is inauthentic. And the other aspect of building your brand is your content. I'm sorry, I'm just like messing with my hair. What you write and what you say, how you articulate who your brand is. So there's certain ways of writing that is identified with specific brands. They have a certain voice, they have a certain character, and that's going to come out with what you write, how you write it, what it is that you say. All right, so now we're going to get into some in-class homework. I want you guys to answer this first question because this is part of your brand development, and type it in there in the chat. What is the problem that you solve? That's the first question I want everybody to think about and write that down. What is the problem that you solve? Because with a logo, with a color scheme, that means nothing if you don't solve a problem. So I'm going to give you a few moments to write that down. Okay, so what is the problem that you solve? Anybody have any that they could write in there in the bottom? The problem that you solve? Because these are the aspects that are going to make up who exactly your brand is. What is the problem you solve? Who is it that you serve? So we've identified some of who each of you serve. Um, Vera serves high school students, or you could also argue that she serves parents. Vanette serves mothers and children, or mothers and infants. Oh, your computer's buffering today. Yeah, technology could be messy. No worries. At the very least, you'll be able to watch the replay. So, what is the problem that you solve? If you don't have that now, definitely write that down. Because if you don't know that, then people don't know that either. And you have to know that before they do. The next one is who is it that you serve? Funding to pay for college. So, what is the problem there, Vera? It sounds like the problem would be no money for college. That's a problem. Funding for college is not a problem. That's the solution. What is the problem that you solve? The problem would be lack of money for college. Absolutely. Bam. So one of the reasons why that's important is because that's going to come up when you're writing on your brand, when you're talking about it, and when you're talking to your target audience, and when you're speaking to them about their problem. If you start with, like, one of your questions, Vera, would be, are you having a hard time finding money for college? That is an easy identifier that you can identify who it is that needs your support. And also, these are some of the things that you're going to do with donors, because they're going to want to know what problem do you solve. Vanette says her problem is assistance for single parents and children. So assistance for single parents and children is not the problem. What is the actual problem? What do they need assistance for? What is the problem? Not the solution. The solution is your assistance. And the way you assist them is you serve them. But what exactly is the problem? So get clear on that. And the transformation that end users or clients receive. So that's the people who receive your services. What is the transformation? So Vanetta, think of the transformation that people get when they use your services. So those first three are questions that you definitely need to answer yourself. And if you don't have time to for us to go over it right now in class, definitely write that down, because you are going to need to be able to answer those questions. Everything builds on that. This is how you build your brand. Now, so there's other ways to use content to build your brand credibility. One way is testimonials. Who has worked with you? Who has seen the work that you do? Testimonials are still relevant, still useful, and people like social proof. So the use of testimonials, of course, as you know, is just like the quote of what some people may have, what they say about you. Another thing about building credibility is a credible brand know what the issue is. They know what the problem is. That's why I asked the question at the very top. What is the problem that you solve? So credible brands already know what the problem is. And they not only know what the problem is, but they demonstrate that they know how to solve it. Another way to build brand credibility is not up here is social proof. That's why, so likes aren't just good just for likes sake on Facebook or Twitter, followers. But what it is it's social proof. It is the old way of saying, like, this many people vouch for this person. This many people said that this person is good or this business is good. So that provides a level of social proof. So ways of building brand credibility: use testimonials, leverage your social proof, get social proof, in your content, in your post, in your language, in your material. Demonstrate that you know exactly what the problem is, and demonstrate that you know how to solve what that problem is. Now, another thing that's very important is knowing your ideal donor. One of the things that's important to know about your ideal donor is how do they self-identify. So this is a little bit a switch in the brain of thinking um, when we're talking about who we're talking to or who we're looking to, who we're trying to identify. Because as a nonprofit entity, you have several stakeholders. You have the people that you serve, and you have the people who fund the people you serve. Sometimes they're the same, but a lot of times they are not. So if you are doing a something to get students to high schoolers into college, the high school students are who you serve, but the people who are paying for it may be the parents, may be other institutions, may be higher education institutions, may be a foundation. So the way that you interact, engage, and identify them will be different. So one of the things about your ideal donor is how do they self-identify? Are they CEOs, or do they call themselves change makers? Do they call themselves advocates, activists? How do they self identify? That's important because when you write your content and your languaging, you're going to be speaking to them. And if you use the language with which they identify, then they're going to be like, oh, Vera's talking to me. Another aspect is knowing their psychographic. And what that just breaks down into is knowing what they believe to be true about the issue. So if your issue is single parents and children, what does your ideal donor believe to be true about their issue? That's important to know. What does solving it mean to them? Does that mean a better community? Does that mean better schools? Not only is it's not only important to know that they know how they care, how they are vested in it. What is their vested interest in solving that problem? And also, what value do they assign to it? So that's all. That's still about how vested or how they are vested in solving that particular problem. So all of those things are very, very important to be able to answer those questions because those questions are going to go into later to what you have into marketing. Remember, branding and marketing are very different. Not very, very different, but they are different. Branding helps you with your marketing, but branding first is getting into the not just the demographic, but the psychographic of the person that you're trying to reach, knowing what they believe, what they like, what they value, how do they self-identify. Those things are important to know. The things that are important to know for you, for your brand is what problem do I solve? How do I solve this problem? And how do I demonstrate that? What is the character of my organization? What are some adjectives that you would use to describe? Is your organization fun, free, care loving? Care, earlier I mentioned the brand Mac, Mac computers. Their specific brand is they're modern, they're cutting edge, they're innovative, they're hip. So that those are things that have nothing to do with all of those words that I just mentioned have nothing to do with technology specifically. I didn't mention a gigabyte. I didn't mention how many whatever per RAM, but it's something that if you can personify your brand and make it into a person, how would you describe this person? I'm going to go into the next slide. Again, at any point when you have a question, just feel free to go ahead and write it in the chat. So now we're going to get into the mechanics of a brand story. And I just put these acronyms just to not have to write it out, but I would encourage you to go ahead and write this down. So the mechanics of a brand story, one of the mechanics is USP. And what a USP is just your unique serving proposition. So Vanette mentioned that she wants to solve problems for parents, single parents and children. And there's plenty of people, plenty of organizations, plenty of foundations that are out there serving single parents and children. How do you uniquely serve them? How will you uniquely serve them in a way that no one else can? That's your unique service proposition. Identify that. If you have a pen and a sheet of paper, I would encourage you to write down, finding out what is your unique service proposition. And what that also will require of you is to research how other people are doing it. Where are the gaps? And even if there aren't specific gaps in services that you can address, you could address things of doing it differently. sometimes things aren't always about doing it better than the next person. Sometimes it's really just about doing it differently. The next aspect of brand mechanics are KLT. And KLT are just the know, like, and trust factor. So first, they have to know who your brand is. Help them to get to know you. How are they going to get to know you? You are going to be engaged online. You are going to be engaged offline. You're going to go to meetings. You're going to be in the community. You're going to be positioned in the area where they are so that they can get to know you, like you. The way that you're going to get them to like you is because you're going to connect with them on all of those things that you know are their pain points. You've already identified what are the issues that they care about. You're going to demonstrate how you can solve them, and you guys, you care about the same issues. So that will build a rapport. And then the trust factor is ways that to build up your trust is to build up consistency in the demonstration of what you do. Again, whether it's online or offline, you're going to be consistent and your content is going to be compelling and you're going to be informational and informative. And these are ways to build up the trust. So, number one is USP. What is your unique service proposition? And number two is KLT. What is your know, like, and trust factor? And that's something that you have to work on. And then BVF. BVF is your benefits. What is it? Benefits, value, and features. So, what is the benefits of the organization? And the people who are focused more on the benefits of the organization is like, how does it benefit the end user? How does it benefit the client or the customer that you're working for? The value is focused on how does this add value to the community or to a family or even to an organization. So benefits is more direct. Value is reverberates out, further out. And then the F is the features that your organization. Now the features are more like logistics. They're more like the how. They're more of a description. And one of the challenges that I see people have a lot is they try to recruit donors and get more support based on articulating features. People care very little about features unless you can demonstrate benefit and value. So the features are training or book bags or coursework or whatever your how is. Those are features of the organization. It's like if when I go to buy a car, the benefit of having a car is the first thing. Benefit of having a car is I can get around, I'm mobile. The value that it has to me is I can move around with my family, I could get to work, I have access, it increases my access. So if I'm trying to market to someone, I'm going to talk about that. And then lastly, the features. Okay, it has 4 wheels, it has air conditioner, it has this bell, this whistle, which are good. They're icing on the cake. But if it doesn't have benefits and it doesn't have values, then I'm not getting that car. The features are the very last thing. You don't want to focus so heavy on the features of the organization. They're going to go on 15 field trips, get 5 pamphlets. We're going to, those are the bullet list things that are features that don't necessarily um, articulate the transformation and the problem that you solve. The benefits and the values speak to the problem that you solve. So, the mechanics of a good brand story. So, the aspects of a good brand story is, as you can see, I like alliteration. It has 5 C's. C's are just good alliteration tools for me, I guess. So first, the context of your brand story, and your brand story a lot is sometimes it's the story of the founder, sometimes it's the story just of the organization, but the story of the founder is usually very much connected when you talk about a nonprofit organization and their brand story. So when you're telling your brand story, you're going to first focus on the context, and the context is just the setting, the characters who are in it, the who, what, when, where, how are the context. So that's one aspect of your brand story, identifying and sharing and articulating the context. The next aspect is the challenge, or what I like to call the what had happened was. So the what had happened was aspect of your story is the part where you're going to talk about the challenge, the situation that arose within that context. So if I was telling a story I could tell the context of moving to Baltimore, um, not initially really having a place of my own, sleeping on someone's futon, right? That's the context. Now, the challenge that I had is I didn't have a job, I didn't have any level of higher education, I didn't have a car. And of course, like I said before, I didn't have a place of my own. So that's telling you the challenge, right? So then the climax of that, at the climax, you're going to be talking about where the turning point, really, of like where you were faced with something difficult or where you were trying, the struggle that happened. And then the climax of that struggle is where everything turned around. And the concepts are basically, what do you want them to learn? What do you want them to know? What are the key concepts or the key things that they really need to get out of what you've shared with them? And then the conclusion, of course, is like your final message that they walk away with in that particular thing. So this is how, and that's how you tell your brand story. You start with the context, you're painting a picture. You're telling what those challenges are, the climax, what was the turning point where after that nothing was the same. And then what are the concepts, what are the lessons that you learned from that, or what are some of the key concepts that you got out of it? And then of course the conclusion is the actual, I'm sorry, the concepts are the messages, and the conclusion is the actual lesson that you learn from that entire experience. And a lot of organizations do a very good job of telling their brand story, specifically nonprofit organizations, because people connect with stories. People connect with other people. This is why it's so important to make sure that your brand story has all of these components. So now I'm going to go into 4 ways that people can connect with sticky brands. This is how people connect with your brand, because they're not going to see you every day. You can't be in all places. You can't be everywhere, right? But the way that you can make your brand sticky is through press release, social media posts, special reports, because people connect with brands through reading about them. Another way people connect with brands is through hearing about them. Radio, speaking events, networking, and other events. Another way people connect with brands is to see them, videos, pictures, advertising, and then experiences, live events, connecting live. Those are all ways that people connect with brands, and how people make their brands sticky by showing up in all of those different ways. If you are only showing up in one of those ways, then your brand isn't going to be as sticky. If you only write a press release once a month about your organization, especially if you're just starting, or if you only post on social media about your organization and that's the only thing that people are ever able to see, you're not going to be as effective. If all you do is videos, that's just not going to make it as sticky. When you think about, let's say, McDonald's has a very sticky brand because they use all of those things that we talked about that makes brands sticky, like logo, jingles, da 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 da. I'm loving it. Mottos. So I hear that, I see that, I experience McDonald's. I actually don't like McDonald's. I'm not sure why I'm using them as an example. Um, Media, all of these different ways, there are all of these different avenues of how they communicate and make their brand sticky. It's kind of like that song that you don't really like, but it's stuck in your head. And you can't get that song out of your head. You don't even really like it that much. So think about that when you're making your brand sticky. 3 things your content needs to demonstrate. Okay. So as you're writing your content, the 3 things that your content needs to demonstrate is, 1, it needs to demonstrate that you care about the issue, whatever it is. Vanette, you need to demonstrate, and I feel like I definitely feel it, that you care about single mothers with children. Demonstrate that you care. Because in a nonprofit world, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So demonstrate that you care. The next thing that you're going to demonstrate that you understand the problem. That goes back to that other question that I asked earlier. What is the problem that you solve? You have to be able to clearly articulate that you know what the problem is, And then the third one, of course, is that you are the solution for the problem. Demonstrate how you solve the problem. Those things need to be articulated in all of your content. These are some more characteristics of a sticky brand. Sticky brands are confident, they're very clear, they inform. Um, Whether they're informing you something about specific to them, or if you look at some, especially with, I would say, like foundations in a nonprofit arena, a lot of what they do is around raising awareness, because there's some people who don't know that single parents have such a bad experience. So one of your aspects of what you're going to do, Vanette, is you're going to raise awareness about that. You're going to inform them. You're going to tell them about the statistics. You're going to tell them about the challenges. You're going to tell them about the struggles. You're going to inform them. A lot of what you're going to be doing is informing people. Sticky brands always also makes connections. They engage and they have a clear vision. All right. So the next class. So let me do a little bit of a let you guys know what's coming up and what we've already covered. This kind of went by because not many people had questions. So I'm assuming that you got it all and it's all absorbed in your brain. So next steps, your tonight homework or homework for the next week is to write your brand story. Remember those 5 C's, fill those in. Also write your unique service proposition. What makes you unique? How will your organization do it differently? Excuse me. And then the next class, we're going to talk about passion to planning to paperwork. And that is taking all of those ideas and thoughts and concepts out of your mind, putting them onto paper and planning them out. And then what do you need to look for when you're filling out the paperwork for your organization? What paperwork do you need to fill out? Which one is the one that actually gives you the status, and those sort of things. So before I let you go, if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, takeaways, please do go ahead and write that in the chat right now. Vanette says, I'm having so much trouble articulating what I feel in my heart about the problem. So don't worry about that aspect, Vanette. So you can kind of do like a brain dump and just kind of write down everything of how you feel about the problem. But instead of what I don't necessarily need how you feel, but I do want you to write that down and articulate that, because that's going to be valuable and very juicy for you later. What I want you to be able to do is just say what the problem is. So you don't have to say how you feel about it. Just say what it is. Like, if someone punched me in my face, I may have a hard time articulating how I feel about it, but the problem is that they punched me in my face. Yeah. Well, you got to identify what the impact, one impact of it. So one of the things that you could say with because if you're not able to identify what the problem is, people will doubt that you're able to solve it, because you don't. They'll say she doesn't know what the problem is. And if there are several problems, just identify the one that you are going to work on, that your organization is going to be the solution for. And you can make connections and partner with other organizations for the other aspects. And, I definitely know and agree that single mother is something that is very highly stigmatized. I've studied the stigmatization of single mothers. I'm still studying some of that right now. There's stigma around welfare and single mothers. There's stigma around Black mothers. So you if and what you may want to articulate is that it's stigmatized, right? Or what you may want to articulate is they don't have enough resources. Or what you may want to articulate, how whatever you feel like the problem is. Because if you can't identify the problem, Vanette, there's going to be a lot of doubt about whether or not you're going to be able to solve it. And the challenge I think that some of us purpose-driven, big heart leaders have is that we know that there's a problem. We are super emotional and committed about solving the problem, but our emotions won't mean nothing if we don't identify and target what the problem is and then articulate that we can solve it. we'll just be super emotional about it and be there to give them a hug. But they need more than a hug. And if there's something that you're providing that you're saying that they need, then first you have to identify what the problem is. But I feel your pain, Bennett. I know it is a lot. It is so, so much. It's more than one problem. So yeah, you got to identify which one is the one that you're going to solve. Well, you could identify one and that might bleed over into others, right? Or let's say if we said the problem was education, money, and stigma, right? Um, you could have an organization that focuses on getting them better education so that they can make more money. Or you could have an advocacy outreach that works on stigma. Or you could partner with another organization to cover those other two. You don't want to be seen as trying to be all things because it's going to sometimes that could diminish credibility and either make a donor feel like this person doesn't know what they're doing or they don't have a good enough grasp on it. But you definitely have to go deep before you can go wide. Not to say that you can't add on services later or that you can't have, if you decide that you're going to do focus on getting them funding or focusing on getting them back on their feet, so to speak. It doesn't mean that you won't have a GED program there or that you won't have someone there come and donate clothes or talk to them about this or um, help them to get more research sources or increase their understanding about breastfeeding and the importance of that. It just those are just the add-ons. I do remember the picture that you posted on the Facebook page. I absolutely identify with that, understand it. I absolutely identify with that and understand it. So you just have to decide what is to you, how does that articulate in terms of like what does it say the problem is? That picture that you posted in our virtual community, what has it said to you? When you see that, what's the problem? And let me go ahead and drop in the Facebook link. It is. Well, you know what? This is good because you're going to have some time to think it out and get clear on it. Yep. Get absolutely clear on it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our class for tonight. If you have any further questions, comments, or concerns, please do post them in the Facebook group. Reach out to other people, connect. And until next time, continue to do more, serve more, and be more. Good night, everybody. Thank you.